Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are getting up and feeling fantastic out there this morning and having a great start to your day. Great work week, great start to your work week out there so far. I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. I wouldn't say it's going to be active necessarily or super active, but there is a few things going on. We got a risk of severe thunderstorms later tonight. We have a risk of flash flooding, and then we have a smaller winter weather event that's kind of not really emerged out of nowhere, but it certainly will bring a little bit of frozen precipitation for areas of even southern New England, but areas of the Northeast. We'll talk about that, and then of course, towards the second half of the video, we'll give you an update on what's going on with what we were talking about last night. Not necessarily good trends for you winter weather fans, but not bad trends either, and I'll talk about what that means, and we'll dive deeper into that tonight. But excuse me, but certainly some interesting shifts. I can tell you that with just the energy in general. So we'll talk about that towards the second half of the video. Skip ahead if you want. I don't blame you. I'll have timestamps up as usual. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the ongoing support. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, you guys know the deal. Please put it in the comments below. I firmly believe prayer is powerful. And we have a beautiful family here, and I really appreciate every single one of you guys. Asking for a prayer request for myself. I start coaching a kind of a youth soccer team about a week from today. Had a little bit of a meeting through Zoom last night, and it really just it helped me out as far as just getting ready. But anyway, just asking for prayers for as this will be my first time coaching like a little small soccer team. It's not a super serious competitive league or anything like that. My daughter's actually going to be in it, so I'll be coaching my daughter. But it's my first time doing it. A little nervous, but I'm sure that'll go away as soon as I start coaching and things like that. I have some leadership skills just in prior jobs, but certainly asking for prayers just for calm nerves, lower anxiety about that. But it's going to be fun. Just definitely going to have to break in them shoes for the first practice. But I appreciate you all for doing that, and let's get rolling. So there's quite a bit of panels pulled up. I had to kind of stop myself this morning and said, Mitch, it's not that serious. You don't have to have a million panels pulled up. But anyways, water vapor loop shows it pretty well. You see the wider colors right in here. That tells us that there's just more moisture in the atmosphere, all levels. And really what's going on here is the ridge has began to shift east. So you have a ridge that's kind of building over the southeast, which, by the way, temperatures are going to soar after a pretty cold start for areas of the southeast. They'll rise well into the 60s, maybe even to some low 70s. But the ridge is going like this, so therefore, all the weather is kind of surging like this. That doesn't mean you're not going to get any weather down here, but kind of the track of the low pressure will kind of go this way, if you will, or up here. But you are going to have some increased moisture that really blossoms today in Oklahoma, Texas. You're already seeing it this morning. And then areas of Arkansas where you're going to have a flash flooding threat. And then the ridge really hasn't completely built over the Northeast yet. I mean, it kind of has, but it's not to the point where it's going to warm up so much to where you can't have winter weather. So a piece of energy will fly through here. It already is doing so in the Great Lakes. And then we'll enter the Northeast a little bit later this evening and bring literally like maybe as much as maybe a 2 to maybe 5 hour period of frozen precipitation for areas in the Northeast. And we'll talk about that. Watches and warnings. Not going to stay on this long. There's an advisories really because there's not really many warnings. The one thing is this is ongoing right now with the winter weather advisory up here in northern Michigan. A little bit of winter weather been falling throughout the night into this morning. But the new thing here is these winter weather advisories, and we'll zoom in on this here in a second, not quite into the Boston area, but just north and just west of Boston, you guys have winter weather advisories. But they're up for southern counties of New Hampshire and New Hampshire and Vermont, and a good chunk of Massachusetts. So there will be some frozen precipitation a little bit later tonight in the form of maybe some snow, sleet, maybe a little bit of freezing rain, but more so just some burst of snow or sleet, maybe up to an inch in certain areas. We'll certainly talk about that here in a second when we get to the Northeast area. But there is a marginal risk of severe storms today, and this is really more so for tonight. The ingredients really aren't there for anything substantial. They are there a little bit more tomorrow, which we will talk about. But today, not a big threat. You got a 2% risk in this dark green area, this marginal risk for a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Very small damaging wind threat. This will develop more so tonight. So just be on the lookout in Houston. College Station over to Austin, Corpus Christi, everybody in between these communities and towns and cities. You could have some rumbles of thunder, maybe a strong or severe thunderstorm or two, maybe an isolated tornado. Hopefully not. There is a flooding risk. There's a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in any given location in this yellow area. So there will be a couple inches of rain that falls between now and just the next 24 hours in this yellow area. And then we'll get more rain after the 24-hour period. So a lot of areas will see rain here in areas of Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma. So basically some of these same areas that saw ice storm, a lot of winter weather this time last week. We'll just see plain old liquid and a lot of it here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So be mindful of this. This does include down here the Dallas-Fort Worth area, up here to Fayetteville, Arkansas, almost all the way to Oklahoma City, but not quite. And this does include you could have some heavy rain in Little Rock. So let's talk about the southeast first. Ridge is kind of over this area, so you're kind of cool this morning in areas like the Carolinas, for example. Got down to about 32 at my house. But it's going to rise all the way into the upper 60s, maybe even low 70s today. We're getting into this afternoon. You see a little bit of rain getting inside this ridge right here. So some shower activity could develop in areas of Mississippi, Alabama, but very hit or miss for these states. More widespread for you folks over here in Texas and Arkansas and Oklahoma. But we'll talk about that area here in the south central panel here in a second. But outside of that, the rest of the southeast, these showers could kind of drift into areas of southern Tennessee a little bit later tonight. You could go to sleep with a dry ground, wake up tomorrow morning with a dampness on the ground, things like that. And then as we're waking up tomorrow morning, the dynamics and basically the ingredients for severe weather begin to build into this area right here of the southeast and deep south. And some stronger storms begin to enter off the Gulf of Mexico and move inland. And you could be waking up to a rocky morning near Mobile, maybe Gulfport, maybe Baton Rouge, New Orleans tomorrow morning. We'll talk more on that tonight, see what's going on, but this is a huge plume of rain starting to move in just tomorrow morning. The Northeast, kind of a very quick-moving piece of energy, and there could be some heavy precipitation with this. As we're getting into, I would say, around 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon, you could be greeted with some rain showers in Buffalo, but up here, as this... It's almost convective in nature. You got some heavier areas of precipitation. Would not be surprised one bit if you get a rumble of thunder up here in northern sections of New York State. But as this moisture begins to enter a little bit of cold air just kind of lingering around here in the Northeast, you could have some burst of sleet, snow for these sections up here in Adirondacks, just in the higher elevations especially of the mountains of New York State. This will blast through Vermont and New Hampshire, very quick moving. Okay, as we're getting into this evening, this could drop a quick couple inches of snow. We'll mix with a little bit of sleet. Then this begins to enter areas of Massachusetts as we're getting into, I would say, the 8 to 9 p.m. range tonight. And could start off as a little bit of rain, but then might switch to a burst of snow for areas like even Boston. And then the rest of Massachusetts. The hills certainly could get maybe a quick inch of snow. This purple you see here, this is a little bit of sleet. All snow up here in Maine. Could you have a couple inches of it? Not a big deal. But this could switch to all snow for areas as far southeast as Cape Cod. Maybe a burst of heavier snow too. But for you folks down here in like Connecticut, maybe the far northern areas of the state. Same thing with Rhode Island. Really all the cold air is kind of situated like this. So this is going to be all rain for New York City. But regardless, this is very quick moving. It heads on out. By the time you wake up tomorrow morning, there's nothing. And so you do have the winter weather advisories for these sections right here in Mass and the far southern counties of Vermont and New Hampshire. So we'll watch for this. Not going to be a big deal. Nothing you guys can't handle up here. But as far as snowfall amounts, anywhere from a dusting to maybe an inch. Not calling for much down here in Mass, but I could see somebody getting a little bit more. But freezing rain, there will be a slight chance of a couple 1/100ths of an inch of ice. I don't see anybody getting like a 1/10 of an inch of ice by any means, but certainly could see a little bit of a glaze of ice mixed with maybe some flurries and just a dusting of snow. South central U.S. today, rain is already beginning to become widespread in areas of Texas and Oklahoma, but man, it'll really get going as we get into the next couple hours. Oklahoma City to Tulsa, definitely a rainy day. Same thing with the Dallas-Fort Worth area up to Wichita Falls. Not as widespread maybe around Dallas, but certainly we'll have just rounds of light rain and sprinkles, and this will continue until we get into this afternoon. Maybe a stronger storm could form in southern Mississippi, but I doubt it. But, just be on the lookout for that. But as we get into this evening, we will watch for some stronger cells that try to get going down here in that area where you have a marginal risk. And then this really gets going tonight as we getting into about midnight, 1, 2 a.m. in the morning tonight. You could certainly see some stronger storms right here, especially just west of Houston that really get going. And we'll see what these can do. But as we're waking up tomorrow morning, just more rounds of rain start to enter Arkansas. Just a rainy setup, guys. It really is. And we'll stop it right here. We'll talk about tomorrow tonight. But this is rainfall just between now and the next 24 hours from the National Weather Service. The Dallas area could get an inch and a half of rain. Areas of southeast Oklahoma, maybe an inch or two of rain. And then, the mountains right here of western Arkansas here could certainly see a couple inches of rain. So, yeah, it's going to be a rainy day, but not for a huge area. I mean, this is a pretty big area, but it's kind of compact, if you will. So, and if we were to keep this going another 24 hours out, so this is this point in the next 48 hours right here, look how much rain starts to enter the Little Rock area. Widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain possible for the entire northwest half of Arkansas. Southern Missouri, a lot of rain too. Yeah, so we'll kind of re-hit back on this tonight. The north central U.S., kind of your weather maker, what was of it, has moved on off, and you're left with pretty much quiet conditions today. Not a whole lot going on, except some showers here in the southern sections of the Ohio Valley and Midwest. But outside of that, it's pretty quiet. Pretty quiet day today. Not much to speak on. Very warm overall day today. Florida's going to flirt with them 80s. I think somewhere here in southern Louisiana could get in the 80s. Widespread 70s in the deep south. Even where you see 60s here in South Carolina and Georgia, I think you guys could get closer to 70. There will be a tight temperature gradient right here as a low pressure cranks up, brings its own cold air. But I still think Dallas and areas will get into the 60s. Houston certainly in the 70s. Deep in the southern parts of Texas, well into the 80s. I mean, even warm up here in the Central Plains, well into the 50s. And this is warm for you folks in the north central U.S. and the northern Midwest. I mean, into the 30s, you're thawing out, so you're getting above freezing. Any snow on the ground, you'll get a little bit of snow melt today. Northeast will be cold, Maine will be cold, but this is about average for this time of the year, if not maybe a little above average. Boston will be chilly today. Only highs in the mid-30s, 40s for New York City. And then there's a sharp cutoff right in here where maybe Boston, Philadelphia only in the 40s, but you start to get into Washington, D.C., and to Virginia, you might get into the 50s and low 60s. So Ohio Valley, certainly a warmer than average day today. But we'll move into tomorrow. There is a slight risk of severe storms tomorrow for the deep south and areas of the mid-south. So this almost makes it up to Memphis, but this includes some of the areas that always get hit, it seems like, with severe weather. Jackson, New Orleans, almost to Shreveport, Greenville, Mississippi. So there is a 5% risk for a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Let's hope this doesn't increase. But if you go all the way to the end, the latest long-range HRRR model, it does show some isolated cells getting going. But this is lacking a little bit in some ingredients, but it certainly has some. But there will be a damaging wind threat, 15% risk of winds pushing 50 knots or higher in this yellow area within 25 miles in a given location. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour and mile per hour reading. But we'll watch for this, guys. A very small chance for a hail threat. But that tornado threat, we need to watch that. That's a pretty large 5% risk area. So we'll talk on that a little bit more tonight. So the latest update on this first system, and then we'll talk about the second system. The first system, okay, nothing's really changed with this. You're going to have an area of heavy snow in Iowa, maybe even northern Missouri. This might kind of leak into areas of northwest Illinois. But this could be kind of a whopper of a quick hitting heavy wet snowstorm for areas of Wisconsin where you pick up some pretty intense snowfall rates for areas of kind of the southern half of Wisconsin. And then this moves into the UP of Michigan, and then this could drop several inches of snow for the UP of Michigan as we're getting into, Thursday PM time frame. This moves on out. This could be a weather maker for you folks up here in Maine and the northern sections of the Northeast also. Latest European with the second system. Same kind of deal. Has a piece of this energy flying through. Soaker Saturday with the southern stream energy right here that we talked about last night. We're getting into Saturday, well, in the middle of the night, Friday into Saturday morning. This piece of energy flies across the Ohio Valley, could potentially dump some snow for certain areas of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. We don't know who exactly is going to see it. Do these pieces of energy link up? They do not. So the latest Euro for Saturday afternoon shows much different scenario than it did from the 12Z Euro yesterday. This is the OOZ Euro. It shows some backside moisture, but it shows a flatter and weaker storm now. Okay, so, and this is really just because these two pieces of energy don't really phase and link up quick enough for this to be heavy precipitation on land. So therefore, you got some cold air aloft to work with, and you got something here trying to brew, but it really doesn't really get going until off the eastern coastline here. So you're left with no kind of a dynamic cooling situation. You're not left with enough heavy precipitation. Therefore, you just get a chilly rain Saturday for areas of Washington, D.C., the Delmarva area, areas of the mid-Atlantic. Even it'll be a chilly rain even for areas of the eastern Carolinas. And you even got to watch out for this backside moisture could mix with a little bit of frozen precipitation. That's the Euro, okay? I know you're thinking, well, that's disappointing. Well, this is what the GFS is showing, the latest GFS. Same kind of deal. You're going to get snow up here. Okay, we already know that. We'll continue to kind of find out the details for you guys for that area up there, not to leave you guys hanging. Here comes the soaker for Friday for the southeast. Here comes the piece of energy. You can already tell it's a little bit further south. This is bringing a little bit more snow for areas kind of in southern Indiana and Illinois, even southeast Missouri. Not a whole lot, though. This energy is really digging now. Even on the European, it's digging, but it's not phasing, okay? All model guidance has showed this slowing down and digging more, which is good. You want that if you're a winter weather fan, but you still need cold air, and you still need pieces of energy to phase together. And we'll talk more on that tonight. But look what the GFS does. Suddenly, has rain switching to snow for you folks in Nashville, Tennessee. You're starting to switch to heavy snow in areas in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. Heavy snow, too. If the GFS is correct, you're going to get a heavy, wet snowstorm for the mountains. But look what happens here. Low pressure really gets cranked up. This phases. It comes together, and this turns into a very marginal but workable, wet, heavy snowstorm for areas of kind of the upper southeast, if you will. This will be heavy snow for the Triad in North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. But guys, remember, this is not a forecast. This is one run of the GFS that now has no support from the European or the Canadian model, which I'm about to show you. But the GFS is flexing its guns here, and it's showing some happy hour runs pretty close to the start of the game, which is our storm system. But this even moves north, brings a significant winter weather event for areas along the I-95 corridor. The epicenter state would be Virginia by far. And this heads on out, even brings snow for on up the I-95 corridor throughout the weekend. I'm not going to show you the snowfall that the GFS printed out. It is outrageous, okay? But we're not going to show that. I don't think that's responsible, but I'm sure you guys will see it anyways. The Canadian follows the European. Here comes the system right here. There's a lot of energy going on right here. Okay, you got backside snow with kind of the northern stream piece of energy right here. They try to phase, but it's too late. And this is a weaker, strung-out storm that never gets its act together. So it follows almost an identical scenario that the European does. So it's hard to bet against two models when you're fighting against one. You know, if you have the European in your corner, I would be a little bit better about this. But it's not over for you folks, because the GFS is still going crazy about this and started doing it yesterday. Really, the pieces are on the table. The European really didn't take those pieces away as far as what could happen. The problem is you need, for you winter weather fans, in the Washington, D.C. area that continues to always be kind of a screw zone for winter weather, you kind of need these pieces of energy to phase together. When that happens, it locks in some more cold air, and you'd have a heavy, wet snowstorm. But I'll tell you, the GFS ensembles is the most supportive of this, but this is skewed by a couple members that's really skewing the mean. So, but there's a solid signal over Virginia. I can tell you that in the mountains of the Southern Alps. But I can tell you, if you look at the European guys, I knew it was going to do that. I hate when it does that. Here we go. I can tell you, look at the European guys, there is no support. no more support for you guys in the Mid-Atlantic, only in the mountainous regions. Pretty pitiful. The Canadian mean, a little bit better, but man. So you pretty much got the GFS and it's an ensemble on your side, and that's it. And I can tell you the GFS has improved, but going into battle, I wouldn't want just that mono on my side. I tell you that. But we'll continue to figure this out, guys. I'm a winter weather fan. I'm always going to be biased towards it. So I'm definitely pulling for you folks. I don't think there's a chance here in South Carolina, maybe North Carolina, but I'm pulling for you folks in the Mid-Atlantic. I am. I'm hoping for the best because we turn around and warm right back up next week. So this is kind of like a rabbit in the hat kind of situation where you can find a very small window. This is literally a very small window and maybe capitalize. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a great Tuesday, and I'll be with y'all tonight.